Have you ever had a moment where a single name brought back a flood of memories you thought were lost forever? Drop your story in the comments. We read every one. The courtroom is silent. Too silent. Fluorescent lights buzz like distant sirens. A young man in a faded hoodie stands before the bench, eyes glued to the scuffed linoleum. He's here for a $150 parking ticket, just another case number in a city that's forgotten his name. But then, Judge Frank Caprio glances at the docket. His pen stops mid-air, his breath catches. "Wait," he says, voice cracking. "Caprio? Are you related to Maria Caprio?" The defendant looks up, confused. The judge removes his glasses slowly, blinking back tears. "She was my sister." The room freezes. Cameras don't capture this, but hearts do. This isn't just court, it's a reckoning. And what happens next will leave the entire country in disbelief. Because this isn't about a parking ticket. It's about a family shattered by silence, poverty, and the invisible walls society builds around the struggling. Anthony Caprio, the defendant, has been working double shifts since his daughter got sick. He missed a court date. Now he's drowning in fines he can't pay. But Judge Caprio sees more than a violation. He sees his sister's eyes, her smile, her pain, and he knows this is his last chance to make things right. For decades, he's been the internet's favorite judge, kind, wise, almost saintly. But behind that calm demeanor lies a private grief he's never shared. Maria vanished from their lives in the 80s. No goodbye, no explanation. He assumed she chose to leave, but now, her son stands before him, alive, struggling, and unaware they're family. If Caprio walks away now, another generation could be lost to the same cycle. But if he acts, he might heal a wound that's bled for 40 years. And the world is watching. Because within hours, this moment will explode online, not as legal drama, but as proof that love can still walk through courtroom doors. There's no cartoon villain here. Just a system designed to grind the vulnerable into dust. In the 1980s, Maria Caprio was a single mother in Providence, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. She wasn't lazy. She wasn't reckless. She was human. But when her son got sick and she missed a shift, her employer fired her. No warning, no safety net. She applied for aid, denied, tried to pay rent, evicted. Then came the painkillers after a back injury. And before she knew it, she was trapped in addiction. Not by choice, but by circumstance. The courts fined her for missed appointments. Welfare offices turned her away for incomplete paperwork. Neighbors stopped waving. Her own family, including Frank, began to believe the whispers. She gave up. She left. But the truth? She was fighting a war no one saw. And the system didn't help. It punished. Every missed payment became a warrant. Every warrant a barrier to jobs, housing, dignity. Over time, shame buried her alive. She stopped calling, stopped writing, disappeared. Not because she didn't care, but because the world made her feel unworthy of love. And now her son faces the same gauntlet. One missed payment, one bureaucratic error, and he's labeled a defendant, not a human being. The real villain isn't a person, it's indifference dressed in policy. And Judge Caprio knows he helped uphold that system for years. That guilt? It's been eating him from the inside out. Frank Caprio didn't become a judge to wear a robe. He became one to tear down walls. Born to an Italian immigrant who sold fruit from a pushcart, young Frank watched his father endure slurs, fines, and humiliation just for speaking with an accent. At night, he studied law under a single bulb in a tenement with no heat. He paid for law school by cleaning offices after midnight. But his fire came from Maria, his older sister, who gave him her lunch money, who stayed up with him during panic attacks before exams, who whispered, "You're going to change things, Frankie." He promised her he would. But as his career soared, hers collapsed. He tried to help, offered money, a place to stay, but she refused, ashamed. Then silence. For decades, he carried that failure like a stone in his chest. Even as millions cheered his viral acts of mercy, a teen's ticket forgiven for helping his mom, A homeless man's fines erased. He wondered, did I do enough for her? Now seeing Anthony's face, the same dimple, the same hesitant way of tucking his chin, he realizes Maria never left. She was just buried by a world that offers no grace to the poor. This moment isn't about judicial discretion. It's about redemption. And Frank Caprio, the man the internet calls the kindest judge in America, finally has a chance to keep the promise he made to his sister all those years ago. Anthony pleads his case, voice trembling. I work nights at the hospital. My daughter's got asthma. I missed the date because I was in the ER with her. The prosecutor cuts in, cold and crisp. Your Honor, compassion doesn't erase municipal code. The fine stands. Caprio's eyes narrow slightly, but he stays calm. He asks Anthony about his daughter's medicine, his rent, his fears. The young man chokes up. I just don't want her to end up like my mom. The room holds its breath. Then the prosecutor snaps, with all due respect, Judge, we can't let emotion override the law. Caprio leans back. For a heartbeat, his mask slips. Grief, rage, love swirl in his eyes. The tension is unbearable. Will he uphold the system that failed his sister, or will he risk his reputation for this young man who shares his blood? The camera catches Anthony's hands, calloused, shaking. And in that silence, something ancient stirs. Not justice as written in books, but justice as lived in the heart. Caprio takes a slow breath. You're right, he says softly. The law is the law. A pause. The prosecutor smirks. Then, Caprio's voice swells with quiet power. But so is love. He turns to Anthony. Do you know who I am? Anthony shakes his head. I'm your great-uncle. Gasps echo through the gallery. Caprio continues, tears streaming now. Your grandmother Maria was my sister. She was brilliant. She sang opera in the shower. She saved every penny for your college fund, even when she had nothing. He reveals that Maria wrote him letters, dozens. Lost in moves, misrouted, drowned in time. I thought she abandoned us. But she was fighting a war none of us saw. Then, the moment that breaks the internet, he dismisses all fines. Not as a judge, but as family. You're not alone anymore. He reaches into his pocket, pulls out cash, $200, and hands it to Anthony. For your daughter's medicine. And tell her, her great-grandfather sends his love. The room erupts, not in applause, but in stunned silence. Then quiet sobs. Even the bailiff wipes his eyes. The prosecutor sits frozen, his rigid worldview shattered by a truth no statute can contain. Outside, a courthouse clerk films it on her phone. Within minutes, the clip goes viral. Because in that moment, Caprio didn't just rule, he resurrected a legacy. He turned a courtroom into a sanctuary. And millions watching felt something rare. Hope. The video explodes. Caprio family trends worldwide. TikTok stitches the clip with black and white photos of Maria smiling at a carnival, holding baby Anthony, found in dusty albums shared by cousins who hadn't spoken in decades. Viola Davis tweets, "This is what justice looks like when it has a heartbeat." Legal analysts debate judicial ethics. But ordinary Americans flood YouTube with comments. My mom vanished too. I cried in my car for 20 minutes. This gave me chills. Local news tracks down Anthony. He's now volunteering at a youth center, using his story to help others navigate court debt. The city council, pressured by public outcry, launches the Maria Caprio Compassion Fund, forgiving fines for families in crisis. Most powerfully, courthouses across America report a surge in requests for Caprio-style hearings. Judges begin asking, what's your story? Not just, what's your violation? Even skeptics admit something shifted that day, not in policy, but in perception. Because millions realized, behind every docket number is a human being with a name, a history, and a right to be seen. And sometimes all it takes is one person remembering that name to change everything. In the end, Judge Caprio didn't just recognize a last name, he recognized humanity. And in doing so, he reminded us all that justice without empathy is just arithmetic. America isn't built on perfect records or spotless pedigrees. It's built on second chances, on the courage to say, "I see you," when the world looks away. Maria's story wasn't tragic because she failed. It was tragic because we failed her. But her son's redemption proves it's never too late to mend what's broken. True strength isn't in wielding power. It's in kneeling beside someone in the dirt and lifting them with your own hands. That's the American promise. Not that we won't fall, but that someone will reach down when we do. And sometimes that someone wears a robe, carries your blood, and remembers your mother's laugh. In a world that often feels cold and transactional, this moment was a lifeline, a reminder that dignity isn't granted by institutions. It's claimed by those who refuse to let love disappear. This story began with a name and ended with a nation remembering its soul. If Judge Caprio's act moved you, don't just share it, live it. Look closer at the people around you. Ask the quiet ones how they're really doing. Challenge systems that punish poverty instead of solving it. Because dignity isn't given by courts, it's claimed by communities who refuse to let anyone disappear. Hit subscribe. Not just for more stories like this, but to join a movement that believes kindness is the highest form of justice. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment that restores your faith in humanity. And in the comments, tell us who in your family carried a silent burden. Let's honor them together. Because as Judge Caprio showed us, sometimes all it takes is one person saying, "I know your name," to change everything. In memory of Maria Caprio, and every soul the world forgot to see.